I'd like to continue this talk with the one that was 2 weeks ago, which was Can't Have It All, and this is part 2. So, we can't have it all, so the saying goes. That means you can't have your cake and eat it too. Something has to go. The possession of whatever it is, or the activity of whatever it is, so it seems. But what does that really mean? It means, for example, we want to fully practice, but we don't want to be at the mercy of our own self, even though we want to keep ourself. But we want to keep the self that we believe in because it feels real. And we want to master ourselves, but we still want to enjoy the desires of self. We want to be open to life, but we still want what we want and don't want what we don't want. We want to be free of delusion, but we still want to have the pleasures of samsara. And we don't want any kind of loss. It seems that nothing lines up in our favor with such feelings, as long as our needs are tied up with self and samsaric desire. So it seems we can't have what we want and consume it too, without loss. And since we don't want loss, that puts us in a bind. But you might say that we don't want to consume what you care about, such as love, marriage, children, pets, jobs, or friends. You just want to share their reality and enjoy it. That is a very noble intention, but it seldom happens. Because as long as the self is in control, we have, for example, because when the self is in control, for example, your spouse or your love is a wonderful thing to share, but is seldom shared the same way at the same time. In one sense, we devour a person's character by not seeing the real person. We think we love somebody, but we're struck by the form only. And so we love that form. We love the person as we see them. And seeing only the relationship that we have with that person, not who that person is. Too often, love means what it means only as a possession. And that happens because the real miracle of love is that the true person, the core being of a loved one, is seldom recognized. We see the eyes, ears, the nose, etc., the form of the person, which the Heart Sutra says is empty of an established being. We give life to forms by our intention, thoughts, emotions, and efforts to construct what we want and avoid what we don't want. The results are that the more the real person escapes us, the more possessive we become, until the relationship becomes only self to self. The real person in the self is ignored through ignorance. Buddha nature is obscured, and we swim in the shallows only as a couple. This is true for everything in our world. All that is born dies. Birth leads to death, to the end. We avoid that truth as much as we can, and yet we still want to cling to ourself, which is born and dies. We first have to come to terms with that truth and make peace with it, and then practice both on the cushion and off to release that self from our bondage to it, and also to relieve its bondage to us. And what do we do then? How can we live without a self? How can we relate to the world without the self? How can we love and share our lives with someone without a self? How can we help others? These questions all assume that there is nothing to relate to without the self. In one sense, that is true. Everything is empty of individual existence. And yet, here it all is. We are very creative beings, and the world we live in is a reflection of our needs, wants, fears, desires, and such. In other words, what we think, emote, speak, and do is the groundwork for each of us. No one is a replication, even though we share common ideas. We have individual fingerprints of self, and our life has our own fingerprint pattern. If we release the tight hold of belief we have about ourselves, we can break the dam that holds everything hostage to thought. So we sit on the cushion and follow reality moment by moment. We stay present moment by moment as we go to the market, as we speak to another, and we pay attention as we work, and even with friends, we pay attention to the real person speaking. We have to break the belief that we are just one lone little being in a multitude going about our own business and just want to be left alone to enjoy who we want to enjoy, do what we want to do, and say and think what we want. But we are one of a multitude working together with each other in a wondrous dance of reality. And what we do and think has an impact on the outcome of each other's reality. And so remembering that there is no let up in practice, just as on the cushion. The minute we wander with our thoughts, we come back to the present, no matter whether we're alone or with others. Then to flow with each moment is our natural movement. And to stop and start with each urge and desire is to mistake reality for something we can have. A river will keep flowing no matter how much water we cup in our hands to keep, but we miss a lot when captivated by desire, hatred, and delusion. When I say that we can't have it all, I don't mean that something happens because of wanting it all or trying to have it all. It just happens when we ignore the flowing, changing nature of reality. So we have to first release the tight hold of belief about ourselves and then look to our Buddha nature instead. When we feel the freedom of moving with Buddha nature and loving with Buddha nature, then all things seem possible for us. We don't interfere in other people's Buddha activity as they realize their own lives. And that means that all that we hold captive to our expectations, beliefs, ideas, and limited love as well. We not only release ourselves when we turn away from samsaric desire, but we release everyone else at the same time. Then all things conspire to help us to succeed. Buddha nature flows freely, and the self can flow freely and express in new forms when it's freed of the domination of thought and expectation, even from us. All things come together. Family, friendships, children, pets, work, and people, anywhere, all come together in Buddha nature. And the only obstructions happen when self-absorption happens. So we can really enter the world of illusion, samsara, and live in it, but only led by Buddha nature, because otherwise we spend our days imprisoned by self-deception and illusion. We can have it all, but only with completely open hands and hearts expressing Buddha nature. Then samsara is samsara and not samsara. Before, when someone wanted to free themselves from delusion, they had to leave everything, all the world, and go to a monastery or go far away from the idea of a polluted world to find a pure practice. Whatever was necessary to free one's mind was supposed to be done, if one realized how high the stakes of life and death were. Now, we are all engaged mainly in a lay form of Zen, but the stakes are still high, even for lay people. We all live and die. To enter more strictly into a practice of meditation, even for a month to 3 months, many things can change in that time, including an intent to practice, can be greatly strengthened. But for most people, we all will live in samsara, hold to our Buddha nature, trust in the practice and the lineage, trust that teachers are here only to counsel and guide, and help others find their true being. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Where are my glasses? Oh, it doesn't matter. Here I am. Pardon my coughing before.
Do you have any questions? Oh, Mike?
Is our problem with samsara our attachment to trying to make life predictable, whether bad or good? We expect certain reactions and we become attached to that, and that our Buddha, it blocks our awareness of our Buddha nature because of those attachments. We keep chasing after desires and worry about things and stuff. And so is that along the lines of what you're saying, in the sense that, our samsara seems to be that we just want things to be along a predictable line so we can kind of plan out things to avoid surprises, but that's not doable. That's false, because things change every second. Is that along the lines of what you were saying, or did I just?
Yeah, Mike, what I'm mainly saying is that, yeah, we want to control, and we can't control because everything in this life is unpredictable, changeable, and we can't plan anything for long. Yeah. So the idea of trying to avoid what we don't want is really takes up a lot of our time. And trying to get what we really do want is also takes up a lot of our time, but we can't do anything about either one of them really, because in a minute things can change.
And
Yeah.
they have no substance, either one, the good or the bad. They're just,
That's right.
it's just the conditions we're dealing with at that time.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Arvin?
What do you call your talk, Can't Have It All?
Because we can't have it all unless we change drastically. When we can have it all in the sense that when we collect ourselves, we can have it all. We bring it all back to ourselves. But we can't have it all in the sense of having a self wanting it all. The self cannot have it all. But Buddha nature, in Buddha nature, we already have it all. So in a sense, you can't have it all because you already have it. But in self nature, you can't have it at all because there's always loss involved. And the loss is what changes everything. So we want the cake, but we're not willing to give up the cake, for example.
So if you give it all the way, you find that you have everything.
You have anything further on that, Arvin? You want to argue the point? Okay. Let's see, who is this up here?
John. It's John.
Is that John?
Yes, I looked it up, John.
It looks different.
It's far away.
Oh, I see. You look different right now.
I shaved and got a haircut, and I have a different.
Oh, that's why you look so different.
It's all different. It's
Yeah.
all changed. I find it. I was just thinking while you were giving your explanation there that really just the word "have," to have it all. Have implies attachment, to have something, to think that we own something or can grab onto or attach to something. So it would seem to me that really when you can have it all is when you have nothing.
Yes, that's basically what Peter was just saying. Yeah, the in our minds, the word have even has a kind of closed fist attitude, but we can only have it all when we have totally open hands.
Yeah.
Nothing stops. Everything is moving. Everything is changing. And we go along with that change. We're changing as well as everything else changing. So when we're willing to just open hand receive whatever is present, then we can have it all in that sense, but not from the sense of the self wanting what it wants.
We just need to be accepting of what comes and what is, rather than
Yeah,
we go into suffering and samsara when we feel that the things didn't turn out the way that we had expected. The pictures we painted in our minds of the way things should have been or could be or will be, when they turn out to be different, it sends us in a spiral. And if we just didn't have attachment to those things, I guess we could have it all. I think that's what you're saying. Yes.
yes, the attachment is the poison dart, as it were, poison arrow. It changes everything. Yeah, Matt.
Okay, so if I understand what you're saying, once we don't prefer anything, nothing is any longer special. And when that happens, then we have it all, when we no longer really care.
That's right. We just receive what's there and we don't throw away any part of ourselves, because all that's coming in is everything that's coming to us belongs to us to begin with. And so when we don't reject what is us, that is, say, I just want the good parts of me and I'll get rid of the bad parts, that doesn't work. So when we just accept everything and say, okay, I'll take all parts of me, everything, then that's more realistic about what's actually going on.
And we have it all.
And we have it all. Yes. Anybody else? Or do you have anything further, Matt?
So in this state of having it all, would you say that that's what you referred to with samsara as nirvana?
Samsara is no longer samsara when we open hand everything and receive everything that comes in. Samsara is an illusion of what we think we can have and what we think we want. And then we find out when everything starts coming to us, it's a mixture of everything. And it's not at all what we expect. But if we pay attention to it, then we take part in what I think it was Buddha activity going on. You don't block or dam anything for anybody or for ourselves. But the minute you start having wants and needs, and I want this and I don't want that, then you have impacts on people around you, on yourself, and just mess up things. But if you let it all move without trying to grab it and stop the activity, then you let the world proceed as it wishes to proceed, which is actually you.
When we dam things up, then nothing can flow. And so when we dam things up, which we do with our difficulties, then we don't have anything. But if there's no dam, if there's no hand that's being closed, then at that moment, or in those moments, it's all there. There's nothing missing. It's all where it ought to be.
Okay, Matt? Okay, Sandy?
Ever since we started staying at home from COVID, I've looked at all the things I've accumulated and how attached I am to them. I was trying to get rid of things, and I kept finding myself being attached to things like it belonged to my mother or it belonged to my father. It was even the simplest little stupid things like little plastic boxes, what I could do with them, and I shouldn't throw them away. And it's like, I know I'm not, quote, a hoarder, but I every time I look at an object, that I see out on the street or something that's being thrown out, I always look at it with what could I do with it, and I need it like a hole in the head. Um, but
Very creative impulse.
yeah, yeah. But when I look at the attachment I have to these inanimate objects, uh, it makes me realize that life would be so much easier and open and happier if I could give it away and just have what I need: a room, a bed, a dresser, and not have to worry about all the other junk that I have to actually dust and take care of. I'm I really am a slave to it if I'm going to take care of it.
That's
And
the problem with things.
yeah, that's
They
the
depend on
attachment.
you. Yeah. Well, let me
You,
know how you do if you can give them all away. Let me know how
I
you
did it. I did it once in your pantry.
You
I
have to
cleaned your
do it
pantry
again.
Yeah, we're in need of that.
Yeah, because
again. Uh, but it's just, it is so easy to get attached to the stupidest little thing. You could have a favorite pencil, you could have a favorite glass. So when you do actually look at what would it be like if my house didn't have all these things, or my surroundings didn't have all these things, how much simpler life could be, how much more freeing.
yeah.
Yeah. And but we, in the everyday world, we don't look at the attachment as something that's actually causing a blockage. We look at it as something we need to feel good.
Yeah.
And,
Thank you. Good point. Mitch.
Mitch, are you in there?
Mitch, would you like to say something?
You'll be
Yes,
there.
I'm trying to get
Eh,
I'm trying to get unmuted, and
Oh,
so
okay.
I have two things. Following up on Sandy's point,
Mhm.
do I have to get rid of my family heirlooms that I'm attached to as long as I recognize my attachment?
No, not really.
I mean, isn't it human to be attached to these things? I mean, aren't we trying to just to
It
be
is.
human?
We are, and it is definitely very human, but it's more self-oriented, I think, than our human instincts are.
But if we recognize it, isn't
I don't see any problem with it myself, unless you find that it actually does start to block you in ways that you didn't realize. Yeah. It's everybody's choice, is what they're willing to block their life with and what they aren't willing to. So if you get to the point where your house begins to irritate you with too many things in it, then you just naturally get rid of it, or start to lessen it or something. But if it's like something that is very dear to you in various ways, you live with that until you realize it could be a hindrance in your life as to who you are.
okay? Another thing is this like, I mean, you're talking about emptiness. Are we not talking about emptiness?
We
Because
are.
in emptiness, we say, oh, it's empty. In reality, it's full of everything. Is that the same?
Yeah, emptiness is not like nothing in it. Yeah, emptiness to me is the possibility of all things
Of
present.
everything, right?
Yeah, all present, but unexpressed at the moment. Yeah, but we understand that emptiness is inherent in everything. So that while you love your wife, you love your family and friends, you also recognize there's more to them than meets the eye. You understand that, like you, they have Buddha nature and they also reflect the flow of reality moving. And so even though you would like to think of them as being a particular person that you've known for a long time, they can still surprise you with things that you never realized were present, and so because of the presence of emptiness as well as form, then all things are possible in that person, as well as in you, as well as in your friends, as well as in your things.
This is the Heart Sutra too, right?
Yes,
No hindrance to the mind.
that's right.
See past delusion and finally nirvana. Same,
Like that,
is
yes.
that right?
You're seeing the real person, the real reality happening, not just an idea of somebody living in a nice, comfortable world, is expressing a whole reality of the cosmos within them at the same time. So it's an ordinary world in one sense. It's extraordinary, wondrous world in another sense. It's the world where miracles happen, but it's not in ordinary life. It's ordinary, is what it is. But there is a world where it's neither ordinary nor extraordinary. It's just a mixture of everything. And every moment is like new and changing.
We have to recognize it.
We just have to see it, yeah. So if you see that wondrous quality just in your spouse, that's an amazing change right there. Because you can't see that in your spouse unless you see it in yourself first. So when you see it in you, you see it in everybody.
So can I take this a step deeper?
Go ahead.
Do we have time?
Sure.
So when I do my Zazen, am I not supposed to be just me sitting on that cushion?
You're just what you are
I'm
sitting.
supposed to be following my breath, feeling just me.
There is no should be, and there's no should I be or should I not be. It's just whatever you are sitting on that cushion is what you are.
I'm still a student seeking, so what?
As long as you think that,
I haven't got to that point yet.
Yeah, as long as you think of that as you, that's who you are.
Mindful. I think about mindful eating. That I picked up from Chosen Bay about just using my 5 senses to eat.
Yeah.
But in reality, then the other side of the coin, if I can talk about a duality, is the fact that everything's attached, and that oneness of myself on the cushion has to turn inside out to be involved with everything.
Oh, I'm not sure what you mean by turn inside out.
I don't.
What?
I think sometimes I think about the Big Bang. How did all that come out of nothing?
How does
If-
come out of nothing?
If I am a singularity, then everything comes. It's hard for me to express.
You mean singularity, meaning a black hole?
Singularity. I sometimes I think of myself as a singularity, but I have to relate to everything.
What do you mean by singularity?
Black hole became everything, right?
I don't know. I don't know black
The Big
holes.
Bang, right?
Well,
Help me here, Peter. Save me.
well, just 1 minute. He'll talk in just a minute. It's like you wonder how the Big Bang came out, but I think it's much more remarkable to wonder how everything can be here at all
Absolutely.
from nothing, from emptiness.
I heard a Rinpoche once say that the whole universe exists because somebody had a bad thought.
Good
Well,
advice.
that's what we talk about, everything you think and feel and say, it has a repercussion in your reality.
Yeah.
What do you want to say, Peter?
I was going to say there's no escape. And when I say that, I mean, we aren't. Actually, I can't use the Big Bang metaphor worth a darn myself either. 'Cause I really don't know. I really don't completely understand it more than some very shallow understanding. But ultimately, once again, saying it again, you have to give up everything, including your singularity, in order to be you.
But don't I have to be a singularity first before I can perceive
No, you being a
perceive the world
singularity,
that way?
no,
That's an idea,
is backwards. It's upside down thinking.
Don't,
Already what you are is who you are, but you don't know probably mostly of who you are. Say that it's like we look at a small part of ourselves and think we understand it, like using our past history, for example, or our knowledge, for example. And actually, if you get rid of all of that, then who you are is who you are. If you get rid of everything that defines you, then who is sitting on that cushion?
And one of those things in the context here would be singularity. You have to give up being a singularity to find your singularityness.
I don't know what you mean by singularity,
but
Mitch,
don't I have to find my singularityness before I can
but
No, the other way around.
meet my
because-
true nature?
No,
No,
Peter's right. That is backward thinking. You are already who you are. You don't need to be more than you already are, but you need to just drop off all the ideas while you're sitting, for example, and just find out who's there. And you'll find it's just breathing,
But that's okay. Well, I'm saying the same thing. I just might not be expressing it
yeah,
correctly.
probably. That's what I think.
Okay.
You, by singularity, what do you mean? I'm still not sure what you mean by it.
Singularity is it's like a black hole.
Yeah,
It's the center. It's like horror. Horror is a singularity.
okay. I'm not, but we'll leave that for now. Mitch.
Okay, I'm sorry, everybody. I apologize to
I'll
everybody.
talk to you some other day about that when we're having coffee.
Now you know what goes on here all the time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. John,
Am I right to surmise that with regards to form, that samsara and nirvana, heaven and hell, with regards to form, it's all the same. It's just with the addition of emptiness that you are either existing within one or the other. Is that correct? With regards to form, there's no difference with samsara and nirvana. The situation is the same either way, right?
I'm not sure what your actual meaning is. Could you just say a little more about it?
So with regards to form, that
Yeah.
which exists in this world. So samsara, as I understand it, is our being in a situation or being in the world or being in an experience for which we are unable to detach ourselves from. We are unable to experience emptiness with regards to that. And
Yeah.
when we are, though, able to experience emptiness with regards to that situation, that same exact situation, the same form, the same physical, whatever's happening has not changed, but only what's changed is the fact that now we look at it from a detached perspective from emptiness. Is that correct?
That's closer. I think it's like samsara is a creation of your thinking. And so when you step back and say, but everything is empty, but I'll look at it, I think what you're trying to do is change your perspective about it. And so samsara and nirvana would be the exact same thing because it's just a change of perspective when you look at it.
So the eggs fall on the floor and they break. So in one mindset, I'm in samsara, but in another mindset, I'm in nirvana. But the form is the same. The eggs have fallen off the table and have broken on the floor.
Yeah. You could say that, yes. yeah, it's the same exact circumstances and situation. Your perspective of it is different, and the biggest perspective is understanding emptiness as the basis of all of samsara as well as everything else.
Thank you.
Anybody can step in here and say anything you would like to, by the way.
Sandy's next.
It's, yeah. Sandy.
Well, John, to answer or to say what I feel about what you said, to me, emptiness is in everything, and emptiness is a good thing because without it, we couldn't exist. We wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be able to live. We wouldn't have a universe. We have to have emptiness to be, and emptiness is a beautiful thing. Just go outside and look at the things that are growing. Look at the grass that's dying. Everything changes, and that change, is not something we should look at like it's bad. Like, oh my God, I'm getting wrinkles. I'm getting older. I'm going to die. It's something that we should revel in. That we are changing. That we're gaining more knowledge. We're doing things with our lives, and we're only be able to do that with emptiness. So emptiness is in everything, and that was one of the things I wanted to say, but I'm trying to remember what the other one was, and it kind of got knocked out of my mind. But to me, it seems that we're so attached to things, especially, our view of the world and these thoughts that come out of our mind. And it's just a matter of, being attentive, learning to be attentive, learning to see what it is you're attaching to, and being able to let go. And I remember at one time when someone said, oh, well, you can let go of your sorrow, or you can let go of this, and you can let go of that. This was years ago before I even started practicing Buddhism. I thought, you got to be crazy. You can't let go of pain. The way they say it, they make it sound so easy. But you truly can. And to me, you have to, like, when I look at my dog who's sick and who I love, with all my heart, I can't hold on to my dog. My dog's 14 and a half years old, and he has a disease. And so what I can do is enjoy my love for my dog, and to let go of the carrying the pain. Why should I carry the pain now? He's here with me. It's like to anticipate the loss of an animal or the loss of a friend is only taking away from your joy of them. And that's letting go. And that's looking at emptiness as a joyous thing.
Sandy, I've heard it described, emptiness described as like a screen on which we project all the images we want. And in a sense, it would be the manner with which we can project whatever is our thoughts. And until we figure out that it is our thoughts and our emotions and our words and everything in to do with us, then we fight it all the time as being other. And so when we realize it's a projection, then we start to cooperate with it. And then it becomes more of a dance working with everything. Reality,
right.
Becomes.
Because you realize it's part of you, and it's, yeah. Just like I was surprised when Mitch called himself a singularity, because to me,
It's true, actually. I figured that out.
That to me is the opposite of what we are. We're not singular at all. we're, I don't know, what is his name? Neil deGrasse Tyson
Yeah.
was saying the other night on TV that after the Big Bang and then the stars started to form, and as galaxies formed, stars exploded, and all of us are made of stardust. He has a new book out about it, and that we really are essentially joined. We are one.
Yes.
So
But Sam,
if you, yeah,
we're also singular.
we are in that sense too.
We are both singular and universal
Right.
at the same time.
That's true. And the singularity part is what brings us when, if we view ourselves too heavily and we're too attached to that singularity, then
We
you
get
cause yourself
a lot of-
problems.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, is that it?
No, that's it.
Yeah.
Can we go on? Okay.
Yes.
If you
Michael was next.
No.
Oh, who's next?
Oh,
I think I was, but that's
Okay.
okay. Michael, go
Okay.
ahead.
No, go ahead, Matt.
Going back to an earlier part of the discussion, it sounded like you were defining emptiness as potential, and what comes out of that is how emptiness expresses itself. So, you know, in terms of a relationship, for example, with a wife or a friend or a other family member, we limit them by our relationship, for example, to their history and how we're accustomed to them, whereas which keeps us from allowing ourselves to see their potential expressed. I don't know if that's accurate, but it sounded to me like that's emptiness in that sense is a source of creativity and creation and expression.
Yeah. Yes, that's actually well said. I agree. Anybody wants to step in and add to it, you can also do it. Michael.
The one thing I've been listening to with all the conversations and stuff is that maybe part of our problem is the concept of I. You know, I view things this way. I miss these things. I wish I had these things. I. And maybe that's where we get tripped up so much with, you know, not being able to hold on to anything because I doesn't exist.
Well, that's the same thing is true of Michael, Mitch, Jane, Peter, you know.
I'm not here. I don't exist. You know?
But you are. And
But
so
I am.
is that.
But it's our reinforcement of I that gets us into this trouble. I mean, it's useful when you're talking to somebody about something that needs to be done or whatever, but it's just something to make the conversation easier. But I doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think samsara comes in, where we can't have everything we want because it's all the same problem.
Yeah. That's true.
I'm keeping it brief.
No, that's very true, actually. Did you say something?
Mitch wanted to say something before. Mitch, what was that?
Is it my turn?
Yes.
Okay, so let me take another shot at the singularity thing. Okay, because I think if we, because we perceive the world through the skandhas, right?
Yeah.
So if our perceptual systems are not correct, if we're a being out of calibration, like an engine, like you tune your engine, right?
Yeah. Why
The
do you
more
think?
finely that we're tuned and we're running as an internal system, as a singularity, then we're more capable of perceiving emptiness in its true form. Does that make sense? Does that make more sense?
Not really.
But the skandhas lead to samsara, right?
Yes,
They trick us,
yes,
right? Even
Yes.
John in the epistles of John says, "Don't let your eyes and your ears fool you."
yes, that's
Right?
true. In fact, the five senses are often
So-
called five thieves.
Yeah. So I guess that's where my singularity of when we get our perceptual systems
Yeah.
running in
Yeah.
calibration, we're more capable, that we are a whole running correctly, that we can perceive the world and properly.
You have your five senses. What is it in the Heart Sutra? It's eyes, ears, nose,
Nose.
tongue.
Knows.
No
Yeah.
sounds, no tastes, no smells, no tastes, no
Yeah.
feelings, no thought.
All of those are empty.
Yes.
That's what it says, in this thing. So we have the things we see and think, and things we do and speak, and we assume we're a whole being because of that. So we're still taking in this and that information we think from the world, and actually,
Well, how can you
I don't. What?
how can you have a, if everything is empty, how can you have a singularity?
But
It's
it's,
like saying everything, and this is not what you're saying, Mitch, but philosophically here, as it were, or, it's, this dog don't hunt.
well, if I had wings, I could fly. But I'm sorry. This is
I still say just sit on the cushion, drop your past, drop your future,
drop my pants.
just your past.
Oh, past.
and, but it's okay on Zoom anyway. But
Yeah, we have no idea what's happening over there.
no, but you drop your present, drop everything that you think defines you, drop your singularity, drop anything you think you've ever learned. And when you do that, when you're sitting there and you're not relying on a single thing that you think was necessary, then just start with the first thing you notice, which is probably that you're breathing, and then go on from there. And then figure out who is sitting there.
Let's have Chris be last.
Okay. Thank you.
Chris, you
Just
wanted-
one comment, and that's maybe we can't have it all, but we do have to wrap up this Q&A and move on to service.
Okay. Wait, Sandy
Yes.
had asked to say something, so go ahead and say it, please. You're no sound, Sandy.
Well, the only thing I was going to say is you're definitely one thing, a solid thing, your own thing. If someone's pointing a gun at you and pulls the trigger, but there is a real you, even though there's the you that's part of everything. But Arvin had his hand up.
You did, Arvin?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Chris. But early on, Jane, you mentioned, the idea of the core being of a loved one being seldom recognized and instead devouring a person's character. Those were
Yeah.
the words you used. And that's interesting language, and I'd be curious to hear more about that.
Okay. I think it's the same thing we're talking about, that your spouse is your spouse and not your spouse in emptiness and form. And and your spouse on the surface is a particular person that you've created in a sense with your own thinking and desires and wants and needs. And so to that person, there's a whole, it's like the iceberg. It's this tiny little thing on the top, and underneath this gigantic part of the ice. And it's like we don't look to see the fact that in the flow of reality, Buddha is there and Buddha is not there at times. And we don't see that part of a person has that incredibly deep core as well. And so we relate mostly to the surface, self to self. And because self to self has to do with desires, and we want this and that, and we don't want this and that. And so we only relate on the very light surface. And so for most people in relationships that break up, especially all the time, it's like there's this dance in the shallows only with the couple. There's no depth going down into the dark parts, or the parts where you never would expect to see some side of yourself and your mate that you never expected to see. And so there's a whole world, a whole universe in your spouse that is your real person. And we don't see that most of the time. But that's true of every single person you meet. And so when you talk to a person, you often just only talk surface to surface, person to person, storekeeper to consumer, friend to friend, spouse to spouse, and so on. And we don't look and see this other incredibly deep, profound person that exists in everybody. And so you could have Buddha in a 2-year-old speaking to you and never see it because you would see only the child. You could have that no matter where it was. A drunk could have, speak profound truth to you, and you wouldn't notice it because you would only see the drunk on the surface. So when we're practicing, you break through that surface and try to always hear the real person talking.
Okay,
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think it's worth a whole other talk, there's so much to kind of mine there or kind of follow there. And yeah, I think I should ask this question earlier. I'm sorry to make it late for everyone, but I would love to hear you talk about this more, in a different talk.
Actually, I have talked about it a number of times because wherever you see something that says a person is the person and not the person, that's always the truth of a person whenever you're relating to somebody, is when you're asleep and don't see that other profound side in everybody without fail. And it's actually true in things, it's actually true in pets, insects, whatever. The whole world has this incredible below the surface wonder of a world.
Okay, that should end it.